The hardest fights you'll ever face aren't the ones people witness. They're the invisible wars raging in your head. The internal conflicts with self-doubt, anxiety, worry, and occasionally hopelessness. These are the battles that truly test us. We encounter periods when existence becomes burdensome, as though enormous pressure is bearing down on our shoulders. But here's something remarkable. You possess the capacity to win these mental conflicts, regardless of their intensity. What if you developed inner strength so powerful, so steadfast, that whatever challenges arise, you remain unshaken? This is precisely what ancient wisdom offers: the practice of not merely enduring, but flourishing despite surrounding turmoil or adversity. It's about converting your difficulties into foundations, about leveraging each obstacle to fortify your consciousness and soul. These philosophical masters recognize that genuine strength originates not from external conditions, but from controlling the cognitions that determine our reality. Today, we're exploring deeply how you can construct that type of indestructible mentality, one cognition at a time. If you're prepared to transform your thinking patterns, welcome your obstacles as growth catalysts, and forge a mentality capable of weathering anything existence delivers, please subscribe. This journey is about advancing towards self-improvement, enhanced self-knowledge, and an existence grounded in meaning. Let's begin. Before we explore how to forge an indestructible mentality, let's reflect briefly on one straightforward yet profound reality. Your consciousness determines your existence. It's tempting to believe that our surroundings, the individuals in our existence, or the situations we encounter are what genuinely shape our experiences. But truthfully, those external elements don't hold ultimate authority. It's our perception that creates our world. How we decode the universe around us determines our feelings, our reactions, and ultimately, our life quality. The ancient thinkers grasped this profoundly, especially the emperor, who frequently reminded himself that we're troubled not by occurrences, but by our understanding of those occurrences. Consider the previous time you experienced defeat. Perhaps it was a professional failure, a lost chance, or a relationship setback. Now question yourself. Was it genuinely the occurrence itself that devastated you, or was it your understanding of it? Frequently, it's not the occurrence that possesses the capacity to pull us downward, but our interpretation of it. This perceptual transformation is the secret to unleashing the strength within us to confront obstacles with power and lucidity. When we can alter how we view difficulties, we can alter how we handle them, and through this, start constructing that mental stronghold that will shield us from life's tempests. It's essential to acknowledge that everything we encounter is processed through the filter of our cognitions. If our cognitions are contaminated with pessimism or self-questioning, the universe will seem dark and crushing. But when we train ourselves to perceive obstacles as growth catalysts, we start shifting the power equilibrium. Rather than experiencing ourselves as casualties of our situations, we understand that we possess the capability to select how we respond, regardless of what existence presents. This is the core of what the philosophers taught. Our strength resides not in managing what occurs to us, but in managing how we decide to understand and handle those occurrences. Consider this. If you're in a challenging situation, you can either decide to view it as an impossible barrier or as a foundation for self-improvement. One perspective leads to helplessness sensations, while the alternative opens up possibilities for education and advancement. This is where genuine strength exists. By transforming your viewpoint, you start perceiving possibilities where others perceive only obstacles. This is the initial step toward constructing an indestructible mentality. When you begin changing how you perceive the universe, you begin changing your connection with it. Rather than viewing yourself as a casualty of situations, you start viewing yourself as someone capable of conquering anything simply by modifying how you understand the situation. Now, this doesn't suggest that changing your viewpoint is simple. It requires practice, consciousness, and dedication. But the initial step is simply acknowledging that your cognitions determine your existence. This consciousness alone is empowering. It provides you the capacity to step outside of your emotional responses and adopt a more measured, contemplative approach to life's obstacles. When you experience irritation, rage, or sorrow emerging, rather than letting these feelings manage you, pause briefly. Question yourself. What am I genuinely responding to? Is it the occurrence itself, or how I'm deciding to perceive it? This straightforward question can completely transform your approach to any situation. Actually, the more we practice this perceptual transformation, the more automatic it becomes. Over duration, our consciousness starts to automatically default to a mentality that perceives obstacles as possibilities rather than barriers. We start acknowledging that we don't require external situations to shift to experience tranquility, satisfaction, or achievement. Rather, we understand that we can nurture those sensations internally by changing how we handle life's unavoidable difficulties. This is the essence of constructing a powerful, steadfast mentality, acknowledging that we control how we decode the universe and therefore how we encounter it. When you begin perceiving the universe through this perspective, everything transforms. The subsequent time you confront an obstacle, rather than experiencing overwhelmed, you can question yourself. What can I extract from this? How can I expand through this encounter? With this transformation, you start unleashing your genuine capability. You no longer perceive barriers as dangers, but as foundations that assist you evolve into a more powerful, more intelligent version of yourself. This is the basis of constructing an indestructible mentality, the acknowledgement that you possess the capability to manage your cognitions and, through this, manage your existence. So, the initial step in constructing a mentality capable of enduring anything existence delivers is straightforward. Acknowledge the strength of your consciousness. Recognize that how you understand the universe determines your existence, and that your cognitions are the perspective through which you encounter everything. With this consciousness, you can start transforming your mentality, converting obstacles into possibilities and failures into education. This perceptual transformation is the initial step on the journey to mental steadfastness. It's not about what occurs to you, it's about how you decide to handle it. And that decision is always yours. Rejection, it hurts, doesn't it? That instant, when you expose yourself only to confront the harsh reality that someone doesn't desire what you're offering. It's uncomfortable, it's agonizing, and it's alluring to perceive it as individual failure. But here's a revelation. Rejection doesn't need to be defeat. What if, rather, it could be an invitation to expand? What if rejection was actually one of the most potent instruments you possess to construct a more powerful mentality? When you start perceiving rejection through this perspective, it stops being something that crushes you. Rather, it becomes an instrument to fortify your mentality. It's like resistance training at the fitness center. At first, it's difficult, you struggle, and the resistance feels intolerable. But over duration, your muscles adapt, become more powerful, and what once felt heavy becomes lighter. Rejection operates the identical way. The more you confront it, the more powerful your steadfastness becomes. The more you advance through it, the more you understand that regardless of how many refusals you receive, they don't define you. Actually, they're molding you into someone capable of managing much larger obstacles in the future. Consider the greatest intellects in history, the innovators, the builders, the leaders. They didn't reach where they are by evading rejection. They confronted it directly, repeatedly. The inventor, for example, failed thousands of times before inventing the electric light, and yet he didn't perceive his failures as reasons to surrender. Rather, he perceived them as education, as possibilities to educate and expand. "I have not failed," he famously stated. "I've just discovered 10,000 methods that won't operate." That mentality, that refusal to be defined by rejection, is what ultimately led him to achievement. Rejection shapes who you become. And it's not just inventors and business owners who confront rejection. We all do, in different manifestations. Whether it's a job submission that gets refused, a relationship that disintegrates, or a vision that seems beyond grasp, rejection is part of the human encounter. The question is, how will you handle it? Will you let it fracture you, or will you utilize it as energy to become more powerful? The philosophers believed that genuine strength doesn't originate from evading hardship. It originates from welcoming it, from educating how to stand steadfast in the presence of it. Actually, the more you confront rejection, the more you understand that it's not rejection that defines you, it's your response to it. When you approach rejection with a philosophical mentality, it becomes evident that each refusal is just another step in the journey. It's not a failure, it's a redirection. It's a possibility to modify your approach, to refine your vision, and to attempt again with more intelligence and more lucidity. And when you approach rejection with this mentality, you'll discover that it no longer possesses the capability to hold you backward. It doesn't matter how many times you're told no. It doesn't matter how many doors close in your presence. What matters is how you handle it. Will you allow it to define you, or will you extract the education, expand from it, and keep advancing forward? Because as the philosophers teach us, the only thing we can manage is our response. And if we can educate to manage that, then no failure, no rejection, no defeat will ever be capable of stopping us. So, the subsequent time you confront rejection, remember this: it's not the rejection itself that matters, it's what you do with it. Welcome it, utilize it as an instrument for expansion. Let it fortify your steadfastness, sharpen your bravery, and deepen your determination. And most importantly, remember that the greatest intellects throughout history weren't constructed on achievement alone. They were forged in the flames of rejection. So accept the obstacle, confront it directly, and let it make you more powerful. Steadfastness is one of those qualities we all admire in others, but how frequently do we stop to contemplate how we can develop it ourselves? The reality is, steadfastness isn't something that magically appears during challenging times. It's something that's constructed through the very obstacles we confront. The most steadfast individuals aren't those who evade hardship, but those who welcome it, educate from it, and utilize it to become more powerful. Consider it. Every obstacle you confront is a possibility to prove your mental strength, to demonstrate yourself that you can not only survive challenging situations, but flourish because of them. Now consider backward to a period in your existence when you experienced genuinely overwhelmed by a problem. Perhaps it was something at work, in your individual existence, or a goal you were struggling to accomplish. How did you manage it? Did you experience crushed under the burden of it? The philosophers, those ancient thinkers who mastered the practice of steadfastness, would request you to do something very straightforward in that instant. Change how you perceive the problem. They didn't believe in evading difficulty or pretending that agony doesn't exist. Rather, they taught us to change our viewpoint, to examine every obstacle as a possibility for expansion. Rather than questioning, "Why is this occurring to me?" the philosophers would suggest you question, "What can I extract from this?" This transformation in mentality is crucial to constructing genuine steadfastness. It's not about pretending that the agony or difficulty isn't genuine. It's about acknowledging that while you can't always manage what occurs to you, you can manage how you decide to decode and handle those occurrences. When you begin perceiving each obstacle as a foundation rather than a barrier, you start constructing the mental strength to confront even greater obstacles in the future. Actually, the philosophers would argue that it's precisely through confronting adversity that we develop our most valuable virtues: intelligence, bravery, and persistence. Let's pause briefly. Imagine you're going through a difficult period. A relationship disintegrates, a job slips through your fingers, or you fail at something you care about profoundly. It's natural to experience down or discouraged. But now, rather than letting those sensations define you, question yourself, what can I extract from this? In every defeat or failure, there's something to be gained. The philosophers believed that even when existence throws us off track, we can decide to educate from the encounter, adapt, and advance forward with more intelligence. This is the core of steadfastness, the capacity to recover, to keep going, and to emerge more powerful than before. The psychologist also spoke to the strength of welcoming adversity. He famously stated, "I am not what occurred to me. I am what I decide to become." This is the essence of steadfastness. It's about deciding how to handle the obstacles existence throws at us. The psychologist understood that our situations do not define us. Our responses to those situations do. In other words, we possess the capability to determine our future by how we deal with our present struggles. When we welcome life's obstacles with this mentality, we don't just survive, we expand, evolve, and become more of who we were meant to be. The philosophers, particularly the emperor, also believed that it's our response to agony and adversity that defines our character. He wrote, "The barrier to action advances action. What stands in the path becomes the path." This signifies that barriers are not just things that stand in our path, they are possibilities to practice virtue. Each time you encounter an obstacle, you possess the chance to act with intelligence, patience, and strength. These virtues are not developed by evading difficulty, they are developed by confronting it directly, by deciding how you handle when existence becomes difficult. It's simple to examine someone who's steadfast and contemplate that they must possess some secret formula for achievement, that they've somehow managed to evade life's hardships. But the reality is, steadfast individuals aren't those who evade difficulties. They're the ones who've educated to welcome them. They recognize that life's obstacles are unavoidable, and they've made a conscious decision to approach each one as a possibility to expand more powerful, more intelligent, and more capable. In that sense, steadfastness isn't a personality trait that some individuals are born with. It's a skill that can be nurtured through practice and persistence. Steadfastness isn't just about bouncing backward from adversity, it's about educating to flourish in the presence of it. The more you welcome life's obstacles, the more you develop the mental toughness to confront even greater obstacles down the road. And remember, it's not about pretending that the difficulties aren't genuine, it's about deciding how to handle them. Existence won't always be simple. You'll confront failures, defeats, and heartaches. But if you decide to perceive each of these instances as possibilities to expand, you'll discover that your steadfastness becomes indestructible. In the end, steadfastness is not just about enduring hardships, it's about converting them. It's about discovering strength in adversity and utilizing that strength to propel yourself forward. The philosophers believed that everything, every barrier, every failure, every hardship is a chance for us to construct character. When you change your mentality and welcome life's obstacles with this viewpoint, you'll discover that steadfastness isn't something you have to strive for. It's something that becomes a natural part of who you are. So the subsequent time existence presents an obstacle. Question yourself, what can I extract from this? And let that question guide you toward greater steadfastness and expansion. Here's a fundamental reality that we frequently forget. You can't manage everything. There will always be things outside your management, other individuals' actions, the uncertainty of the future, the random occurrences that can shake your universe when you least expect it. These things are a part of existence, and regardless of how hard you attempt, you won't be capable of preventing them from occurring. But here's the revelation. There's one thing you always possess management over, regardless of the situation, how you respond. It's a potent realization when you genuinely grasp it. The ancient teacher famously stated, "It's not what occurs to you, but how you respond that matters." That quote holds so much weight. Consider it. How many times have you been in a challenging situation, something out of your management, and experienced completely powerless? The reality is, in those instances, the only genuine strength you possess is your response. You can't change the situation, but you can decide how to handle it. That's where your strength resides. When you transform your focus to what you can manage, your actions, your responses, your cognitions, you start constructing mental armor. You start fortifying the part of you that's untouchable, the part of you that can weather any tempest existence throws your path. Imagine briefly, when something occurs that shakes your universe, rather than letting it spiral into a wave of anxiety or irritation, you pause, you breathe, you decide your response. You acknowledge that while you can't manage the external universe, you can always manage how you engage with it. That's the basis of steadfastness. It's in those instants of decision where your mental strength is genuinely constructed. This approach doesn't signify you're turning a blind eye to life's difficulties. It doesn't signify that you're pretending nothing is wrong. Rather, it's about acknowledging that existence will throw curveballs, unexpected obstacles, unfair situations, loss, and that while we can't change the facts, we can manage how we meet them. It's about deciding to be the calm in the tempest rather than being overwhelmed by it. The philosophers believed that we should focus on the things we can change and release what we can't. They recognized that anxiety frequently originates from attempting to manage the unmanageable. For example, you can't manage how individuals treat you, but you can manage how you treat them. You can't manage what the future holds, but you can manage how you prepare for it. When you acknowledge the limits of your management, you free yourself from unnecessary worry, and in that space, you discover tranquility. This practice of focusing on what you can manage isn't just about mental strength, it's about emotional freedom. When we stop stressing about everything outside our management, we make room for more focus on what matters. This doesn't signify we ignore our feelings, but we educate not to let them rule us. We educate that while it's acceptable to experience irritated or sad or angry, those feelings don't need to dictate our responses. This consciousness brings lucidity, and lucidity brings strength. The secret to living this way is nurturing consciousness. When existence throws obstacles your path, stop and question yourself. What can I manage in this instant? It could be something as straightforward as deciding to stay calm when someone cuts you off in traffic, or perhaps it's accepting responsibility for your actions when things don't go as planned. What matters is that regardless of the situation, you always possess the capacity to decide how you handle. This practice isn't always simple. It requires duration, and it requires work. But the more you practice it, the more automatic it becomes. The more you focus on what you can manage, the more you start perceiving that you possess the strength to manage any situation, regardless of how difficult. In those instances of tension, when everything inside you is screaming to respond, practice self-management. Rather than letting your feelings manage your actions, adopt a step backward. Pause briefly. In that brief silence, question yourself. What would my best self do in this instant? It's a straightforward question, but it can be a game transformer. It's about constructing a habit of reflection where you don't just respond impulsively, but decide your response with intention. This practice, although challenging, allows you to confront any situation with a sense of calmness and lucidity rather than being swept away by your feelings. The ancient teacher put it straightforwardly. We are not disturbed by what occurs to us, but by our cognitions about what occurs. This is the core of self-management. It's not about what the universe throws at us, but about how we frame those encounters. By developing the capacity to pause and reflect before responding, you transform from being a casualty of situations to being the master of your own responses. This might seem like a small thing, but over duration, it constructs a steadfastness that allows you to manage life's obstacles with grace and poise. Self-management is frequently misunderstood as merely resisting temptations or holding backward desires, but in the philosophical sense, it's much deeper than that. It's about acknowledging that our feelings, though natural, don't need to dictate our actions. It's about educating to separate ourselves from the flood of cognitions and sensations that arise in challenging situations. Through this, we gain the space to act according to our values, not just our impulses. This kind of self-mastery is what allows us to stay focused on what genuinely matters, even when the universe around us is chaotic. We all recognize that existence doesn't always go according to plan. Things don't always work out the way we expect, and frequently individuals' actions or situations can throw us off course. But when you practice self-management, you don't let those external occurrences manage your inner tranquility. Rather, you decide how to engage with the universe around you. Whether it's dealing with a frustrating colleague, navigating a stressful situation, or simply managing your own questioning and fears, self-management allows you to maintain your center. It provides you the lucidity to handle thoughtfully, not just reactively. This capacity to decide your response is something that can be developed over duration. It's a muscle that becomes more powerful with practice. Every time you discover yourself on the verge of responding emotionally, adopt a step backward. In that instant, question yourself. What is the best way to handle? It doesn't signify suppressing your sensations. It signifies acknowledging them without letting them take over your actions. For example, when rage arises, you can decide to express yourself calmly rather than letting the rage dictate your words. When irritation strikes, you can decide to breathe deeply and refocus rather than letting it manage your behavior. By constructing this habit of self-management, you create a buffer between your feelings and your actions. This buffer provides you the space to handle with intelligence, patience, and lucidity, rather than getting lost in the heat of the instant. The philosophers believed that by mastering our feelings, we can accomplish a kind of freedom from being ruled by our impulses, and freedom to act in accordance with our highest ideals. Self-management isn't just about individual obstacles. It's about how you engage with the universe at large. It's about how you manage disappointments, how you navigate failures, and how you stay genuine to your values when the universe tries to pull you in different directions. In a universe that frequently prioritizes instant gratification and quick fixes, practicing self-management is a radical act of self-discipline. It's about rejecting the notion that we require to respond to every impulse, every desire, every fleeting feeling. Rather, it's about deciding to act with intention, to align our actions with our purpose, and to exist in a way that reflects our best selves. The more you practice this kind of self-management, the more you understand that you're not at the mercy of your feelings or the situations around you. You start grasping that you possess the capability to determine how you show up in the universe, regardless of what's occurring around you. This is the genuine strength of self-management. It provides you the capacity to determine your encounter, to decide your response, and to exist in alignment with your values. So subsequent time, you're confronted with a situation that triggers a powerful response. Remember this: pause, reflect, and decide. Question yourself what your best self would do in that instant, and utilize that as your guide. Over duration, this straightforward practice will construct a steadfastness that no external situation can shake. It will provide you the strength to confront any obstacle with calm lucidity and unwavering purpose. This is the strength of self-management, the capacity to steer your own ship, regardless of how rough the seas may get. When existence feels like it's spinning out of management, it's simple to get caught up in the small irritations of the instant. Perhaps it's the endless messages, the traffic, or the unexpected curveballs that seem to derail your day. But here's the thing. These are just blips on the radar. They're temporary. Yet in the chaos of daily existence, it's simple to lose sight of the bigger picture, to focus so heavily on the immediate that you forget about the long term. The philosophers, however, possessed a different viewpoint. They believed that the secret to maintaining tranquility of consciousness is to zoom out and focus on the larger journey. The philosophers taught us that existence isn't about winning the small battles, it's about the long-term journey. And what does this signify for you? It signifies that when you experience overwhelmed, when the short-term struggles seem insurmountable, you require to transform your focus to the bigger picture. Life's long-term goals are like a compass. They assist you navigate through the stormy days, providing you with a clear direction even when the winds are powerful. You don't let the noise of the present instant drown out the vision of where you're headed. The emperor frequently reflected on the brevity of existence and the importance of focusing on what genuinely matters. He once stated, "You possess strength over your consciousness, not outside occurrences. Understand this, and you will discover strength." It's in those instants of struggle when you can practice this intelligence. Rather than getting caught in the whirlwind of the current instant, remember that this is just one step on your journey. The irritation you experience today is a temporary part of a much bigger process. By focusing on your long-term goals, you keep your consciousness anchored in a place of lucidity and purpose, regardless of how challenging things get. This is where the strength of viewpoint comes into play. When you perceive the universe through the perspective of long-term goals, you are no longer responding impulsively to every small failure. Rather, you're adopting a step backward and questioning yourself. What can I extract from this? It's about making determinations based on where you desire to be in the future, not just on the immediate situations. This mentality transformation is incredibly potent because it allows you to advance through existence with intention rather than being swept away by the current. The secret to staying on track with long-term goals is to break them down into manageable steps. It's simple to examine the big picture and experience overwhelmed by the enormity of it all. But when you focus on what you can do today to advance closer to that vision, it makes the journey less daunting. Each small action you adopt is like a brick in the basis of your future. And over duration, those small steps accumulate into something far greater than you could have imagined. This is how consistency constructs achievement. When you begin perceiving your daily actions as part of a larger purpose, you start approaching existence with more lucidity and calm. Rather than getting bogged down by the little inconveniences, you understand that they don't define your journey. What defines your journey is your commitment to your goals, your steadfastness in the presence of barriers, and your capacity to stay focused on the bigger picture. In those instances, when things aren't going according to plan, remind yourself that failures are simply part of the process. They are not the end, they are the beginning of a new chapter. As you continue on your journey, it's important to remember that this is your existence, and you are the one steering the ship. The philosophers believed in individual responsibility, and when you accept responsibility for your own path, you empower yourself to create the existence you desire. Every determination you make, regardless of how small, advances you closer to the individual you aspire to become. So, the subsequent time you experience overwhelmed by the present instant, remember to step backward and focus on the long-term vision. Keep your eyes on the destination and trust that every small step is getting you closer to where you desire to be. By transforming your focus to the long term, you gain management over your journey. The distractions of the present will always be there, but when you possess a clear vision of where you're going, they become less significant. Keep your eyes on the prize and let that vision guide you through the stormy days. Your long-term goals are not just visions, they are the roadmaps that lead you to your greatest capability. With patience, persistence, and a clear sense of direction, you can navigate life's obstacles with purpose and steadfastness. Keep going, and remember, the journey is just as important as the destination. Bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's the determination to advance forward despite it. It's simple to contemplate bravery as something reserved for heroes or grand instants in existence, but the philosophers taught us that genuine bravery is discovered not in the absence of fear, but in how we handle it. Fear is a natural part of being human. It's something we all experience, whether we're about to accept a big obstacle, confront a difficult conversation, or even just step into the unknown. But bravery isn't about not experiencing afraid. It's about experiencing that fear and deciding to act anyway. The philosophers grasped this profoundly. They believed that every time you confront your fear and advance through it, you become more powerful. It's not about evading fear or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about acknowledging it and still deciding to advance forward. Consider it briefly. What are you afraid of right now? It could be something as straightforward as speaking up in a meeting, confronting someone about an issue, or accepting a leap in your career. These fears can experience heavy, overwhelming even. But it's important to remember that they don't define us. Fear doesn't control you, your response does. It's not the fear itself that holds strength over us, it's our response to it. When we decide to confront our fears, to walk into that discomfort with bravery, we accept backward the management that fear tries to rob from us. And as the philosophers would remind us, fear is not something to run away from, it's a possibility to expand. Bravery allows us to confront those difficult instants with strength. It's the inner determination to advance forward, even when the outcome is uncertain, even when it's easier to stay where we are in our comfort zones. Every time you confront a fear, regardless of how small, you construct steadfastness. Each time you decide bravery, you fortify your mental strength, preparing yourself for the subsequent obstacle. This is a core principle of philosophical philosophy. It's simple to be consumed by fear, especially when the stakes experience high. Perhaps you're scared of failing or afraid of what others will contemplate. These fears can create a paralyzing hesitation that holds you backward. But what if you transformed your viewpoint on fear itself? Rather than perceiving it as a roadblock, imagine it as a signal, an indicator that you're on the verge of something meaningful, something that could advance you forward in existence. When you experience fear, rather than evading it, question yourself, what is this fear telling me? What can I extract from it? Fear possesses a funny way of revealing the things that matter most to us. It's a sign that you're challenging yourself, stepping outside of what's familiar, and striving for expansion. That's where genuine bravery resides. The more we confront fear, the more we understand that it's not as terrifying as we initially believed. We provide it strength by evading it, by letting it dictate our decisions. But when we stand in the presence of fear, we perceive that it doesn't need to manage us, rather, we manage it. This doesn't signify fear will disappear. It will always be there in some manifestation. But with bravery, we educate to walk with it, rather than be overwhelmed by it. And with each step, we expand more capable of managing whatever comes subsequent. That's how steadfastness is constructed, not by evading obstacles, but by confronting them directly and refusing to backward down. In many ways, bravery is like a muscle. The more you utilize it, the more powerful it becomes. When you're constantly evading discomfort, you're not exercising your bravery. But when you advance through fear, when you decide to act despite your hesitation, you're fortifying your steadfastness. Over duration, this practice constructs mental toughness. The subsequent time an obstacle arises, you won't hesitate as much. You'll recognize from encounter that you've confronted fears before and emerged more powerful, and you can do it again. This is what the philosophers grasped. Genuine strength is constructed in the struggle, not in evading it. So question yourself again. What's holding you backward? What's the fear that's keeping you from advancing forward? It's duration to confront it, not as a threat, but as a possibility. The more you confront your fears, the more you'll discover that you're capable of far more than you imagined. Bravery is not about being fearless. It's about deciding to act despite fear. It's about developing the inner strength to keep advancing forward, regardless of what existence throws your path. Every obstacle, every instant of fear, is a chance to construct that strength, to fortify your steadfastness, and to demonstrate yourself just how much you are capable of. Every day offers a chance to fortify your mental muscles. It starts with the habits you create and the routines you follow. One of the best ways to train your consciousness is through philosophical reflection. Accept an instant in the morning to pause, breathe, and reflect on the day ahead. What obstacles might you confront? How will you handle them? This practice isn't just about preparing for the good days, it's about equipping yourself for the hard ones. The philosophers didn't shy away from obstacles. They welcomed them. They grasped that adversity is where genuine expansion occurs. By acknowledging potential difficulties before they arise, you allow yourself to meet them with a sense of calm and lucidity rather than fear or anxiety. It's about creating a mentality where you perceive barriers as possibilities for expansion, not as roadblocks that stop you in your tracks. Mindfulness is another instrument that can assist you fortify your mental steadfastness. Being mindful signifies being conscious of your cognitions, feelings, and responses in the instant without judgment. It signifies observing your consciousness rather than letting it manage you. For example, when something stressful occurs, rather than responding immediately, accept an instant to breathe and observe. What are you experiencing? Why are you experiencing this way? What's driving your cognitions and responses? By pausing and reflecting, you gain management over your emotional responses, allowing you to decide how you respond rather than being swept away by impulses. This practice requires duration and discipline, but over duration, it will assist you develop a deeper grasp of yourself, your triggers, and how to manage them effectively. Journaling is another potent practice for mental training. Writing down your cognitions and feelings is a great way to release mental tension and gain lucidity. It provides you the space to explore your inner universe and reflect on your encounters. This practice doesn't need to be long or complicated. It could be as straightforward as jotting down how you're experiencing at the start or end of each day. What obstacles did you confront? How did you handle? What could you have done differently? The philosophers frequently wrote about their cognitions in their journals, and through this, they gained intelligence, viewpoint, and a greater grasp of themselves. This habit of daily reflection assists you construct mental strength because it forces you to confront your cognitions and sensations rather than evade them. Engaging with content that fortifies your consciousness is also an important part of mental training. Just like you wouldn't go to the fitness center and only lift weights that are too light, you shouldn't only consume content that reinforces your existing beliefs or comforts you. Rather, seek out ideas that challenge you, that make you contemplate differently, and that advance you to expand. This could be reading philosophy, listening to podcasts about individual development, or engaging in thoughtful discussions with others. Every bit of knowledge you consume is like adding weight to your mental barbell, making you more powerful, more steadfast, and more capable of navigating life's obstacles. Mental fitness, just like physical fitness, doesn't occur overnight. It's something that requires consistent effort, day in and day out. But just as you start perceiving results from your physical workouts after a few weeks of dedication, you will start perceiving the results of your mental training. At first, the changes might be small. You might not notice it right away, but as duration goes on, you'll start perceiving a more powerful, more steadfast consciousness emerge. You'll discover that you manage stress better, you're less reactive, and you're capable of confronting obstacles with greater ease. This is the strength of consistent mental training. Over duration, you'll construct the strength to manage whatever existence throws your path. Just like physical fitness, mental fitness is a lifelong journey. There will always be room to expand and improve, and every day presents a new possibility to fortify your consciousness. But the secret is to show up consistently and put in the work. If you desire to construct steadfastness, you need to commit to daily mental training, whether it's through philosophical reflection, mindfulness, journaling, or consuming content that advances you to contemplate and expand. By making these practices part of your routine, you'll develop the mental toughness to not only survive life's obstacles, but to flourish in the presence of them. The journey won't be simple, but it will be worth it. With every day you invest in your mental fitness, you'll become a more powerful, more steadfast version of yourself. Perfectionism is something we all grapple with, frequently without even understanding how much it holds us backward. We aim for flawless execution, contemplating that the only way to succeed is to get everything right. But here's the reality. Perfectionism is a trap. It keeps you stuck in a constant loop of self-questioning and procrastination, never allowing you to advance forward. The philosophers, with their focus on living in alignment with nature, grasped this profoundly. They believed that perfection was an illusion, a false idea that only paralyzes us. What they valued, rather, was progress, not perfection. When you examine existence through the perspective of perfectionism, everything becomes about getting it right, being flawless, and evading mistakes at all costs. But the reality is, mistakes are essential for expansion. They are not failures, they are education. In other words, the obstacles, the imperfections, the failures, they're not the things that stop us. They're the very things that teach us and advance us forward. So when we make a mistake, we shouldn't fall into despair or irritation. Rather, we should welcome it as part of the process, recognizing it's assisting us construct steadfastness and intelligence. It's simple to perceive imperfection as something to evade, but what if we reframed it? What if we perceived imperfection not as something to fear, but as a foundation to something greater? Every time you decide to accept action, despite not possessing everything perfect, you're reinforcing the idea that progress is what matters. With each step, however small, you're advancing closer to the individual you desire to become. Perfection, on the other hand, can paralyze you, leaving you stuck in an endless cycle of second-guessing and overthinking. So, how do we release perfectionism? First, we require to start accepting that good enough is good enough. This doesn't signify lowering your standards or settling for mediocrity. It's about acknowledging that waiting for the perfect conditions to act will only keep you from making progress. Perfection is unattainable, and the sooner we release this impossible standard, the sooner we can start accomplishing genuine progress. It's a mentality transformation. Rather than focusing on flawless execution, we focus on consistent improvement. The secret is not to be perfect, but to be better than you were yesterday. Accept action, even if you're not 100% prepared. Start that project. Possess that conversation. Make that determination. Do it imperfectly, but do it. Actually, doing something imperfectly is frequently better than not doing anything at all. The more we wait for everything to fall into place, the more we delay the very things that can assist us expand. Progress doesn't originate from sitting backward and waiting for the ideal instant. It originates from showing up, making mistakes, and educating from them. Another essential part of this journey is releasing the requirement for approval. Perfectionism frequently stems from a deep desire to be validated by others, to be perceived as flawless. But the reality is, you'll never please everyone, and attempting to do so will only leave you exhausted and unfulfilled. Rather, focus on what matters to you, on your own values and goals. When you release the requirement for external validation, you free yourself to accept action based on what genuinely matters. You start making determinations that align with your purpose rather than seeking approval from others. This transformation is liberating. It allows you to exist authentically and advance forward without the burden of perfectionism weighing you down. The philosophers also taught us to focus on what we can manage and release what we can't. Perfectionism frequently involves attempting to manage every detail, every outcome, every response. But the reality is, you can't manage everything. What you can manage is your effort, your attitude, and your response. When you focus on these things rather than on accomplishing perfection, you'll discover that you're capable of much more than you imagined. You'll start perceiving that progress, not perfection, is what leads to genuine expansion and achievement. So release the requirement to be perfect. Welcome imperfection as part of the journey. Understand that mistakes are not failures, they're opportunities to educate and expand. Every time you accept action, even imperfectly, you're constructing steadfastness and advancing closer to the individual you desire to become. The philosophers recognized that existence isn't about being perfect, it's about making progress, one step at a duration. And with each step, you become more powerful, more intelligent, and more capable of managing whatever existence throws your path. So, accept the imperfection, release the perfectionism, and focus on progress. That's where genuine strength resides. If you've made it this far, you're already on the journey to constructing an indestructible mentality. You've educated about the strength of viewpoint, the importance of welcoming rejection, the value of steadfastness, and the necessity of focusing on what you can manage. These aren't just concepts, they're instruments you can utilize every single day to fortify your consciousness and navigate life's obstacles with bravery and lucidity. But recognizing is only the initial step. The genuine transformation occurs when you begin applying these principles to your existence. It's about showing up every day, doing the work, and committing to your expansion. It's about deciding to perceive obstacles as possibilities, to confront your fears, and to keep advancing forward regardless of how difficult things get. This is the journey of constructing an indestructible mentality, and it's a journey worth accepting. Now I desire to hear from you. What's one obstacle you're confronting right now that you can transform into a possibility for expansion? Contemplate about it and share your cognitions in the comments below. And if this video resonated with you, if you discovered value in these philosophical principles, please hit that like button. It assists us reach more individuals who are on this journey of self-improvement and mental strength. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Winds of Thought for more content that will assist you construct a more powerful, more steadfast consciousness. Remember, the journey to an indestructible mentality isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about showing up, doing the work, and committing to becoming the best version of yourself. So keep going, keep expanding, and keep constructing that mental strength. You possess everything you require within you to confront whatever existence throws your path. Thank you for watching, and I'll perceive you in the subsequent one.